Hey, who is you, my nigga? You ain't nobody. Tough talking on the net, boy, I promise. I'm making a promise, ain't doing no threat. You said you gon' do something, that's a threat. I got me a shooter, he shoot at your neck. You bargain your luck, better put on a vest. It's too late to go back, you should know what is next. Yeah, we set you up, red tape, that is tough. Set you up, red tape, that is tough. Set you up, red tape, that is tough. Set you up, don't play around, don't get no fuck. Niggas be riding the dick more than bitches do. Always claiming some kin in you. Put a knife in your back so I not like the Uzi ooze. Knock you right out your Prada shoe. I remember they told me I wasn't cool. Now they bitch on my dick and she swallowed too. And she told me she not even into you. So I'm taking your bitch, that's what real niggas do. I need about 23 million locked away before I ball with it. I don't be flexible when I do it, I be killing niggas. Niggas be hating, they step into a murder charge with it. I know they was faking, they told a nigga they was all with it. Step to the plate, I knock you off, yeah, it's off with it. Know the base, you watch your mouth before you talk with it. Givenchy, I take a picture, go to Ross with her. No clothes on, one hand, Randy Moss in it. Get the bigger picture, cut a couple bitches out, what don't you understand? You told me my life don't matter, it's crazy how shit's going backwards. You said I wasn't shit, you don't even fuck with a nigga, what don't you understand? You told me my life don't matter, you don't matter to me. Oh. Hey, who is you, my nigga, you are nobody. Tough talking on the net, boy, I promise. I'm making a promise, ain't doing no threat. You said you gon' do something, that's a threat. I got me a shooter, he shoot at your neck. You bargain your luck, better put on a vest. It's too late to go back, you should know what is next. Yeah, we set you up, red tape, that is tough. Set you up.
I literally unmute. I was supposed to unmute and be like, dang it. All right, well, we're back. Okay, it's solved. It's as solved as it will be. I hope everything's fine now. We're good, right? It's not muted anymore. Let me make sure this is turned down. Hopefully it's just my connection. Can you guys? Okay. Hopefully y'all can hear me on TikTok as well. I'm doing a new thing where I'm streaming on YouTube and I'm using the new phone broadcast thingy to stream to TikTok as well. So I don't know if y'all can actually see me. Because on my other phone, it's like, oh, I can't. So I hope that everything is fine. My audio's low? Okay, hold on. You know what? Here, we're gonna do something real quick. Let me just swap out mics. Okay. All right. I think we're good. Is that it? Okay. Hold on 1 second. Oh, Jesus Christ. Alright, we should be fine now. I just gotta go turn off this heat because it's hot as all hell in this house. All the technical difficulties are solved. Now that's solved, I just need to make sure that the TikTok stream is actually up, and I have no idea if it actually is. Okay, so it doesn't even say I'm live. Am I live? Hold on. Let me. Okay. It was paused the entire time. It was paused the literal entire time. Okay, now we're fine. Wow. Okay. Well, that's annoying. Alright, I think all of the possible technical difficulties are now gone. I'm gonna look at the TikTok chat. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Let me plug this thingy in. So, okay. So, for those of you guys watching on YouTube, okay? First of all, this mic shouldn't even be here anymore because I'm not using it. I'm using a different one. Secondly, you guys are here. That's my camera. Then the TikTok stream is here on my other phone, and I'm watching chat there. So there's a lot of things going on. It is 3:31. I do need to send her the link still, but I also wanted to make sure all the technical difficulties were out of the way before we even began. So, okay. Alright, there we go. Alright, now we're good. I'm seeing me in 3 separate locations. So if I'm looking at the screen right now, I should be looking at the camera. But if I oh, and then my OBS is behind my actual phone, so if I look slightly off to the I don't know how to describe it, but my actual my second monitor's here, my camera's here, my main screen is here, the TikTok live is here, and then the chat is down here. So I'm going to be looking at 1.5 billion things. So if I look disoriented or I don't look at the right thing, you know why. There are a lot of people now subscribing. Thank you. That notification will keep popping up. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me make sure everything is situated correctly. Uh-oh. Okay. We're good there. Okay. Yeah. So now the only thing that's left to do is actually send this invite. But yes, we will be here for the time being, and let's actually go to TikTok, because I was messaging her on TikTok to where I actually gotta send her it. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing okay. I gotta log into my actual TikTok. I'm trying to think of the best way I can do this. Wait, let me try something. Okay. Yeah, okay, this is the way I can do it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. There are so many things that I have to look at. I'm glad that you guys are tuning in, though. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm very terrible at multitasking, so I'm really just trying to get everything down and out the way before I even do anything. Okay. Let me do invites. Let me copy the link. Now let me go over, actually log in, and then invite her. Let me make, hopefully that doesn't kill the TikTok live stream. hopefully she can just copy and do that, and then she'll be in the Discord call shortly, I hope. So I've sent her the link. Hopefully she gets that. But yeah, I guess we're just going to be talking about Black Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter movement. Apparently the FBI is here saying Black Lives don't matter. I wish, where are my mods at? The audio's low on YouTube, but good on TikTok. Do I sound okay to y'all? First of all, let me, deafen there. Let me just, part of me really wants to, hold on a sec. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right. That should, for the most part, solve this issue. Hopefully, I sound decent now. What do you guys think? Let me know. And okay. All right. Okay. So I have gotten everything done. Okay, Ella. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, because my camera is like being used to stream right now, so it doesn't display through Discord. But yeah. Hold on, let me make sure the audio is good. Okay. Everyone, you guys can hear her, right?
Okay. Oh, she can't hear. Somebody's saying that they can't hear me.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, so everyone can hear both of us. Okay, we're fine.
No, we can't. I apparently they can't hear me, but they can hear you.
Okay, here, let me check. Can you guys hear her? Okay. I'll just wait for the chat to update.
What?
Okay, I'm hearing yes. I'm hearing we can't hear. Now we can. We can hear now. Okay.
Can you hear
Everyone's
now?
saying it's fine. Okay, it's working now. All right, we're good, right? Okay. I think she's not talking right now, but okay. I think we're fine.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So, I guess we can just get right into everything. So essentially, for those of you guys who aren't aware somehow, you had a video where you essentially were like Black Lives Matter was based off of a lie, and I called you out on that. So if you do mind elucidating exactly what lie was Black Lives Matter the movement based off of? Okay, hold on. There's some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. So there's a situation where I think she had left the call and now I don't know. There's a different user in the I don't know. Yeah, no, she's not talking right now, but all right, hello.
Hello, sorry.
Okay.
Somebody was calling me, and so it was cutting out.
All right, that's fine. But yeah. So I essentially was just like exactly what lie, if you'd like to explain, was the Black Lives Matter movement based off of?
Right. So my claim was that the BLM movement was based off of a lie.
Uh-huh.
And the narrative that that Black people are being targeted and killed in large numbers by white police officers. That's what I'm.
Okay. Well, first let's get certain things like fixed. When it comes to policing and the effect of Black people, it's not necessarily, especially the Black Lives Matter movement. Black Lives Matter movement isn't singling out white police officers. It just happens a lot of the time where you see the high-profile killings. It does happen to be a white police officer, just because that's the majority of the police force. But it's not particularly saying that white police officers are responsible for killing Black people in a large number. It's more of a focus on general policing, police brutality, and that effect on Black people. So if you want to prove how that's a lie, I'd be willing to hear that.
To prove that police in general,
like policing doesn't disproportionately negatively impact Black people, or like police killings don't negatively disproportionately affect Black people, either of those.
Yeah, I'll go with the second one. Policing doesn't negative. Well, yeah. Do you understand? Policing doesn't negatively affect the African American community. Do you want to go with that one?
And what basis do you have for that?
Okay, so for one, I've been reading a book called The War on Cops by sorry. So I said, I'm reading a book called The War on Cops by Heather McDonald. And I was reading into some of the statistics that were happening, and some of the statistics that she put out about policing having a positive effect in African American community, being that the crime rate is significant. And so with that being said, that kind of leads into my argument of I guess with you saying that like BLM isn't just white officers, like this narrative that white officers are killing African Americans, then that kind of like dismantles what I was trying to say, because that was the narrative that I was trying to target to say like this is a lie.
Unfortunately, that narrative does not exist. I'm sorry, who wrote that book again?
Heather McDonald.
Okay. But if we're talking
okay, you know what? Actually, can you specify like what kind of effect you mean like with the African American community? Like, are you talking about emotional effect or financial effect?
We can talk about all of it really, but if you want to focus mainly on killings, we can talk about how that happens at a disproportionate rate, because that's kind of like the main spark when it comes to Black Lives Matter. But the entire policing system in general is very biased, and the criminal justice system in general is very biased against Black people, if you want to get into that.
Okay, we can get into that.
Okay. Right now I'm seeing that Heather McDonald is a American comedian who is I don't really know the validity of those statistics that she might have put out, but I can give you empirical studies that have been done into policing's effect on Black people and police killings and the biases in that.
Okay. And I'll give those the statistics that I got.
Okay. Well, so there was a study done at Columbia Law School in 2020 that was a data analysis of 3,933 killings to examine the intersection of race and reasonableness in police killings. They found that across several circumstances, police killings and their objective reasonableness, black suspects are more than twice as likely to be killed by police than are persons of other racial or ethnic groups, even when there were no other obvious circumstance during the encounter that would make the use of deadly force reasonable. So, I mean, if you want to put that up against Heather McDonald, I don't know how that's gonna work out for you, but
Heather McDonald is the author. She's not the person. She's not behind the statistics that she used in the book.
So what is exactly her credibility that would make me inclined to believe something that she?
The FBI, the website, the FBI website that talks about
statistics?
Criminal rent. Yes,
where they list off the stats for arrests that are voluntary. Yes. Okay. So those are voluntary statistics submitted by each police department, and it's telling you the amount of people who were arrested for a particular crime, and that
it also talks about the criminal rate, for African American community and for the white American community. It specifies with all races.
Yes,
so.
I'm aware of that. So exactly how does that prove that there is no disproportionality in the rate?
Let me actually just present to you a case done by that Chicago presented in 2016 when Barack Obama insinuated that policing was lethally biased towards Black people. Mm-hmm. In the study, it was found that at the time, I have to emphasize this, that Chicago was in the midst of an epidemic with drive-by shootings. And so by the end of 2016, 4,300 people were shot, almost all Black, 24 being under the age of 12 years old, none of which were shot by cops. And the percentage of the Black people who were shot by cops was a 0.5%. That was the percentage. And then virtually those 21 people who were shot were armed and dangerous. And so by that statistic, that's canceling out what you were saying about Black people having the need, being in a position to where they're being killed for no reason, for no apparent reason other than what was listed when you were talking about that study done by, can you clarify?
That was Columbia Law School. So you're saying that because in a particular year, the vast majority of Black teenagers killed by gun violence in Chicago was from.
It's not just in a particular year. Black on Black crime is significant every year.
That's called proximity crime. But if we're talking about proximity crime being an effect in the Black community, yeah, that is a big problem. But how exactly does that prove anything when it comes to policing? Because a lot of Black kids were killed by other Black teenagers, that means that there's no policing bias?
No, that's not what I'm insinuating. What I'm trying to emphasize is that you're saying that they're being targeted. Like this is like a norm. Black people are being targeted by police officers, and by these statistics, I'm saying that there's a small portion, according to this study, the 0.5%, that were shot, and that there's a bigger issue here, 100%. Even if you were to believe that police were targeting you at a large portion, you can see that there's a bigger issue here.
Okay, well, when we use language like targeting, it makes it seem as though like police are on a concerted effort every day when they leave to be like, okay, I'm gonna go kill Black person.
Right, and that's the narrative.
That's not the narrative pushed by anyone, including
That is the narrative, because according to New York Times, I remember this clearly when I read the book I'm not sure if it was 2015, 2016. Their title on the New York Times was that the biggest threat to the African American community today is that police officers are killing them in numbers.
Yeah,
these are false narratives that continue to make their way out into mainstream media, and people believe them.
Yeah, that is completely different than saying that something. Okay, even if we accept that, okay, targeting, if we use that word. Well, if we're seeing a disproportionality in the amount of Black people that are killed by police as opposed to any other racial group, then surely that would lend credence to that narrative. That's not saying that like, oh, every single day some cops go out to look for Black people to kill, but it's saying that there is a disproportionality in the rate at which Black people are getting killed by police as opposed to other races. And when you're saying that it's a very small proportion of people who are being killed by cops as opposed to other black on black crime. Yes, police kill roughly 1,000 civilians every single year across the United States, so no shit, if you looked at Chicago or one place in particular, you wouldn't see that many. But if we're looking at the people who the police killed, a disproportionate amount of that are black people. So that's what the Black Lives Matter and everything is talking about. So why is that?
But why? I feel like you're disregarding that black people also commit crimes at a higher rate, and so they're gonna have more interactions with the police officers. So it makes sense.
Well,
I'm not justifying whether every circumstance is by cops that whether every circumstance where cops fatally shoot somebody that is justified. I'm just saying, like, if we're trying to be,
well, if we're going to say, well, according to those FBI statistics that you mentioned earlier, white people actually have more interactions with the police every year. So if we're looking at things happening proportionately, then the amount of black people, well, first, that's just assuming that black people who are getting killed by police were committing crimes at the time, which is a very not like perfect assumption to make. But even if we're saying every police interaction that wounded up with a black person being dead or wounded up with anyone being dead, was that person perfectly like committing a crime, which would track on to the crime rates for each racial group, then that would be assuming that if everything's happening proportionately, since there are about 6 times as many white people in the country as black people, that roughly 6 times as many white people would be getting killed by the police than black people, which is not the case. So
okay, let me actually talk about the 20 this is about the white on white crime rate and the black on black crime rate in 2018. White people committed around 2,600 of those, and black people committed around the same amount, which is it's disproportionate in terms of the black community being 13% of the population committing around this the same amount of homicides as a 62% population.
Why is that?
What do you mean? Why is that?
Why did black people commit a lot of homicides amongst each
other?
I
think that there are a lot of things. There are a lot of reasons towards that. I actually looked into a study done by UNICEF in 2007 that reports that father absence has a clear effect on any community. Children in general, children who experience father absence are more likely to be incarcerated, to go to jail, to go to prison, to drop out of high school. Those are all statistics behind that. I think that there's a lot of reasons that conclude to why black on black crime rate is so high.
Again,
or homicidal rate.
Again, so we're getting back to the phrase of black on black crime. When we're discussing conversations of crime amongst each racial group commits crimes against each other more than they do.
But
yeah,
I'm saying there's
the
a
reason why is because the reason why in black and white people
the African community is committing around the same homicides as the white community.
Well, first of all,
the white community is making up 62% of the United States.
You're getting this from the FBI statistics from 2018,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Go ahead and look that up.
Okay, and again, when it comes to people committing crimes around each other, because people live amongst their own racial group more than they do disparate racial groups, maybe, just maybe, having a group of people who have significantly less socioeconomic wealth and power than another group explain.
That doesn't justify crime.
Didn't justify
just because
it.
You're poor doesn't mean that you have the right to steal or to kill someone.
Didn't justify it. I didn't make a statement saying that because black people on average have 15% of
but you're putting them in a position
that means that it's okay for them to steal. I'm saying the reason why that could happen is because when you crowd people in areas, you redline them, you take their wealth, you take everything from them, maybe, just maybe, you're going to see an increase in those things that happen when you do that to people. I'm not saying that it's okay, but I'm making an attempt to understand it.
That's justifying that.
That's not justifying.
It is justifying it, because I'm telling you, like, here, this is the issue. I told you the crime rate and how they're completely.
Yes, and I'm asking you why the crime rate is high, and you're saying that I
emphasized that study. I said there's several reasons to why that could be.
Yeah, there's several reasons to why that could be, which is reasons that I listed also: the lack of socioeconomic power, the lack of financial mobility that black people have as opposed to white people. You mentioned fatherlessness. A lot of black fathers ended up in the prison system through things like mass incarceration that took place in the 90s and 80s. So yeah, there are multiple reasons of it, but for you to just say, okay, the fathers aren't in the house, okay, where did the fathers go? This is a very interconnected thing, and me explaining to you the reasons behind that is not me justifying it. And if we're
okay,
go ahead.
I'm saying I agree with you in terms of the redlining and things like that. I 100% understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so that would probably explain, even assuming that actually let me look at this. But I'm looking over the data table right now. Again, these are arrests, not actual people convicted of certain crimes. But assuming that you were correct when you said that white and black people had the same homicide rate amongst each other, that would kind of go to various factors that we talked about that could explain that, which is why white people might have a significantly lower crime rate amongst each other, but they also have significantly more wealth and significantly more power in a country that was built by them, essentially for them. So like that would kind of explain a lot of the things. You can't just go, oh, but black people are committing more crime and then throw your hands up in the air. And that also doesn't tell us anything about why they're getting killed so much disproportionately compared to white people, because that also has nothing to do with, just because you're committing a crime doesn't mean it necessarily warrants you being shot, which is exactly what was studied in the study that I told you about, where it went over reasonableness for police killings, and that it found that a lot of the disproportionate outcomes were against black people. So, like, yeah, it's a very interconnected thing that you have to that you're discussing when you talk about these things in one sense.
Okay, directing it back to the BLM movement in itself. Like I said, if black people are committing crimes at a high rate, I told you it's around the same as white people, and it's insane. Being that they're 13% of the population, they're going to interact with police officers. And so, like I said, my narrative was honestly built off of the fact that that the narrative that was being put out on social media, that the biggest issue threatening African American youth today is police officers, and this insinuation that black people are constantly in dangers in the hands of white police officers is just simply not true.
Well, okay. Well, if we're talking about narratives that BLM is pushing, we're talking about combating things like police brutality and systemic racism and everything, which is the main focus of Black Lives Matter. It's not necessarily saying that white police officers are doing this to black people, and the fact that you bring up a headline from the New York Times to say that this is the narrative that Black Lives Matter was built off of, and it's a lie.
I think that there's significance to it, being that the New York Times is a big corporation that a lot of people, they read the articles, and so if you're putting out these false narratives, people are gonna fall into that, and they're gonna believe whatever the title says.
Well, I mean, and again, based on the FBI data table that we brought up earlier, white people are having more interactions with the police, so that's not you saying that, oh, well, black people are having more. That's just factually incorrect based on the thing that you provided.
I think you misunderstood what I said when I say that black people are having more interaction. I'm saying, like, because they're committing homicides at the same rate, according to the 2018 study, around the same rate as white people, they're going to interact with police officers as almost as much as white people, even though they're a smaller portion of the population.
Well, when I'm seeing I don't. Okay, well, if we're talking about them interacting with police officers again more, which if we're talking about them committing, that's not the entire scope of crime. I don't know how to explain it, because black people might be having a very high homicide rate or anything, doesn't mean that every single police response to a call is going to be for a homicide. You have to look at all crime. And if we're looking at all crime based off the data table that you provided, white people are having more interactions with police. So that's just a fact. And it would make sense considering they're a vast majority of the population compared to black people. But if we're bringing it back to the BLM point about the narratives and stuff that they push, again, they're not mentioning that it's white officers and everything. And if we're talking about the disproportionality in policing, that is a thing that they focus on. That is a proven fact. And then you also have to talk about things like systemic racism. So I'm struggling to find exactly what lie Black Lives Matter was based
Um, well, I guess maybe if you say it like that, I think that maybe we might just have two different understandings of where the narrative, what narrative is being pushed out. You're saying that, oh, it's about equality and police officers. What is it? This it's about a social movement highlighting racism and discrimination and things of that nature. I'm saying that there's false narratives that are put out there. Like I said, New York Times being one of the biggest ones that people read into and start to believe outside of factual evidence.
Question, even if more, because again, proximity crime, and when you're in the specific socioeconomic circumstance that Black people are in, even if you found something, which you did, where it was like a lot of the crimes or killings amongst Black youth or whatever was other Black people, isn't it still a fact that policing is also a significant problem?
No, not according to the statistics. I wouldn't say.
What statistics?
Well, I brought up the Chicago case a little bit ago. I told you that 0.5% of Black people around that time were shot, and that's a small amount compared to everybody else. And then I also wanted to ask you, because this is a narrative that BLM pushes out. What's a bigger threat? Another African American to another African American, or police officer to an African American?
Well, when we're talking about an organization that's based on fighting against police brutality, of course they're going to bring more of a light to that. But even when they're talking about systemic racism, that has downstream effects that result in things like Black on Black crime, I guess, if you want to call it, or proximity crime in the Black community. So when you're going after an issue like systemic racism, like Black Lives Matter is, you by default are going to be addressing those things. The problem is, a lot of people that tend to agree with you go like, oh, see, but Black people are killing each other more, and then just kind of throw your hands up in the air. That's part of the discussion, yes, and you can argue which one is the bigger problem. But when you have an organization that's dedicated to fighting police brutality in majority part, then of course they're going to bring more of a light to that.
No, like you were saying that of course it's part of the problem. But whenever it's brought up, no one wants to talk about it. They're saying, "Oh, like you're, like hold on." Like,
well, no,
they get offended.
No, we talk about it. You guys don't. The problem is, you guys go Black on Black crime, as in conservatives. You guys go Black on Black crime. Ooh, look at that. We go, yeah, Black people were redlined into particular areas and had a lot of the wealth taken from them and started off as property. So no shit, that'll be a downstream effect of that. So here's what we do about it. Here's what's happening. Here's what we do about it. Conservatives go, yeah, there's Black on Black crime, so why complain about police? You can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. You can do both. Like there is no either or there.
Well, I think when conservatives talk about the Black on Black crime, right? I think that I'm going to direct it back to the case study that I was talking about Chicago. And how is the 0.5% of the Black people who are shot by the cops around that time? I'm just going to direct it back to that study. I think when conservatives bring the statistic of Black on Black crime, I think it's because it's of more relevance. And I only say that because if more Black people are dying from something that can be prevented within and needs to be discussed within the African American community, I don't see why BLM isn't making this a bigger conversation, something that is talked about in a better manner.
Again, because, well, first of all, there are multiple there are like three main problems I have with that. First, there are multiple other organizations that are dedicated to stopping violence within the Black community that conveniently conservatives who love to rant about how Black on Black crime, they never mention them. Secondly,
what are those?
I literally have a video on my TikTok actually where I go through a bunch of them. I don't have all the names off the top of my head, but especially in the Chicagoland area, and like I know Black Lives Matter, the organization's in a lot of hot water for financial stuff right now, which is a whole other scope of the conversation that this is not in. But initially, I think I forgot exactly what year it was when their expenditure report came out. There was like 22 organizations that they had dedicated money to, whether it was stopping crime in the black community, helping fight against that, whether it was reaffirming black trans rights and stuff like that. There are a lot of organizations that that outside of Black Lives Matter tend to deal with those things, and a lot of people don't even bother taking the time to even look into those. But nevertheless, when it comes to crime within the black community, the issue is how we go about it, because as a result of all the things that I can talk about, where it's socioeconomic standing, various things like the crack epidemic, and stop and frisk and various policing policies in the 90s and tough on crime and stuff like that. As a result of that, you saw a lot of things that result in things like proximity crime, an increased rate of crime amongst black people, we make an attempt to understand where these things come from and how to address them. You guys just say that it exists and then go, why isn't Black Lives Matter talking about it? When there are other organizations that do that, and as a product of talking about systemic racism,
you say
you
other
are
organizations. BLM is the big organization people are looking at.
Yeah,
you're saying other organizations talk about it. If BLM is the movement that is for Black lives, why isn't BLM making that a center issue? If the issue is affecting more African Americans.
Because I don't know how else to put this to you. When you focus and say, oh, but black on black crime, first of all, there's a reason why I call it proximity crime and not black on black crime. Because black on black crime in itself is a term that's used to paint black people as inherently more violent.
You're distracting from the actual problem here. I think
that's not distracting from the actual problem.
Yes, it is. We're clearly talking about the BLM movement. You're talking about where the term black on black crime.
Yeah, I'm telling you why the Black Lives Matter movement doesn't need to say, hey, but black people kill each other in order to prove or reaffirm that black lives do matter. That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that when it comes to using the terms that you guys like to use, like black on black crime, that was a term specifically constructed by people to make black people look inherently more violent. So when you're saying, oh, black on black crime, as if white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, doesn't happen. Yeah, those things happen too, and it's a big problem in the black community. That's why we talk about things like systemic racism and where that stuff comes from. We talk about where it comes from and where we want to go. You guys just say that the problem exists and then provide no solution.
Please enlighten me on those solutions that are being talked about.
Those solutions that are being talked about
to fix black on black crime, because you're saying you're insinuating that these are things that are constantly being talked about, like making an effort to change this.
Okay. First, if we're understanding where a lot of these issues come from, firstly, doing things like trying to address the single fatherhood rate and everything that is a product of
what are you doing
that are a product of policies that have happened in the past, like an increase in private prisons and policing and everything, and the crack epidemic and stuff under the Ronald Reagan administration and everything like that. There are a lot of inner working things that are at play here, trying to correct course for things like redlining and job discrimination, and reinvesting in schools, making sure we come up with a more equitable way in getting schools funding so that very poor downtrodden areas aren't stuck in a situation where the property taxes are super low around their area, so those schools get no funding, and those schools tend to be disproportionately black, leading to an education drain, leading to a lack of higher degrees and stuff like that. These are all things that are a very pivotal part of the conversation, and the conversation that we have. When you say black on black crime is a thing, and it happens more often than police killing black people, that doesn't do anything but serve to paint black people as inherently more violent and serve to dismiss the problem of policing as if that's not a huge systemic problem too. And it's not just police killings, it's the entire policing system, biases and jury selection, everything like that.
I feel we're really we're getting off topic here.
No, we're staying directly on topic, because when you're talking about problems in the black community and proximity crime, these are all things that you can do to address it. These are all sources of that, and it's a very deep conversation. It's not just a short but black on black crime. This is the conversation seems like it's getting off topic because you have to talk about all these things in order to actually have a reasonable take on this stuff, instead of just doing the common, it exists.
Okay, so I don't think that conversation went anywhere. I'm gonna go ahead and just bring up my last point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that the BLM movement in itself is doing more bad than good. So, according to the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Statistics states that 6,000 um wait, I'm sorry, I've skipped my part, I apologize. Many activists, scratch that part, many activists and criminologists deny that violent crimes are rising in in many American cities, and scoff at the idea that it's connected to depolicing, even though the FBI reports that nationally in 2015 homicides increased by 12%, and along with an increase in resisting arrest. And I think that that starts off with this narrative that people are pushing, like I said, that the police officers are here to kill you, like the white police officer out to get you. And I don't blame children who are not children, people in general who are being arrested and they're resisting arrest because they're doing this in the name of solving, in the name of in the name of in the name of racism, saying, oh, like, this is a racist, what's happening to me is racist, I need to, I need to look away from this. And
so I'm sorry, we're saying that because Black Lives Matter is somehow pushing a narrative that these white cops are coming to kill the black people. You said exactly what's the effect of that?
An increase in homicidal rates, in the homicide rate, because it's more violent. I know we all saw the riots that happened throughout, honestly, every election year. But there's definitely an increase in homicides according to the FBI.
So there's been an increase in homicide rates, and this is because people think that cops are racist.
Yeah, well, I think that if for instance, if I say that with this narrative, like I was saying, of Black people being portrayed to be a victim of police hatred, and white police officers are constantly seeking to hurt them, I would think that they would resist arrest. I would think that they would have a hatred for the cops, and they would do anything to not be around them, or to get rid of them. Does that make sense?
Wait. So are we saying that the police killings are increasing because people are resisting arrest more because they think the cops are racist, or we're saying that people are killing each other more because they think that the cops are racist?
Oh, I think I like mixed myself up with that. But that makes sense that you mentioned that. But I think what I'm saying is that nationally homicides have increased, and I think that with the BLM movement always coming up every political year, having an increase, that has an increase on whether or not people are killing each other more. The only reason I say that is because with riots and things, a lot of people die from those things. And so not to say like that's the 12%, but to say that, to scoff at the idea that it's not connected to depolicing and the riots that are happening, I think would just be ignorant.
Well, if we're trying to attribute this increase in crime and everything to the Black Lives Matter movement as a whole, it would really not help to realize that I think it was around 96% of the demonstrations that we saw, especially like at the height of BLM in 2020, right after George Floyd, about 96% of those were peaceful. And we're forgetting the fact that an entire pandemic...
I don't agree with that statistic.
You don't agree with that statistic?
No. But you can send me a link to where you got it from, or not, you just made it up yourself.
I can definitely link it to you, because that's not like I agree or disagree statistic.
Please do.
Harvard
I will not
study.
take CNN as a resource, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay, I'm going to search that up for you right now, but not only were 96% of them peaceful, an entire pandemic... I was just looking at a study from Pew Research conducted that says that they don't know exactly what led to the rise in murders and crime overall in 2020, but they have reason to believe that it is things like various economics and societal changes brought on by the coronavirus pandemic, which was a big thing in 2020, and changes in police community relations after the murder of George Floyd. Not just they like depolicing and riots and stuff. When there's a lot of social unrest, yes, crime is going to go up. Why did that social unrest happen? because there's a thing that keeps happening where black people keep getting killed unjustly by the police, and certain people have had enough of it. So when you keep having civil unrest and stuff like that, things like crime and everything is gonna spike. So we want to address it to make sure there's no more civil unrest by fixing the systemic issues with policing and with systemic racism. So like you can't really escape this glaring fact that there is systemic bias and systemic racism in things like policing, the criminal justice system, and everything. And that's why all these things that we're seeing as a microcosm when it comes to crime rising and stuff like that, that's where all this is coming from. I'm
gonna wrap up my point by saying that this was initially what I wrote down. That Black Lives Matter will continue to victimize the Black community to deflect from real issues that are happening. The illiteracy rate, I mentioned the illiteracy rate because in California, 75% of African Americans don't meet the reading requirement. Black on Black crime rate, 90% as of 2019. The single motherhood rate, which is at 60%. And I mentioned the 2007 study in UNICEF that showed that father absence plays a huge role in a child's life. And issues that are, and those are initially what I believe to be issues that are truly crippling the African American community.
Okay, so I don't think that Black Lives Matter, or an organization dedicated to talking about police brutality and systemic racism, is distracting from the issues that are a product of systemic racism. So when you're talking about things like literacy rate, yes, it is very unfortunate, and it's bad that 75% of students or African American students in California don't meet the reading requirement. I wonder if maybe there was a long history in this country where Black people couldn't even legally read, which is exactly why Black people today would probably be behind in those statistics, and why a lot of schools that live in poor areas that tend to be African American don't have enough funding to get the proper books and materials to get these people's literacy rate up, which is a part of systemic racism that Black Lives Matter also focuses on. So you can't simultaneously say that you see how you're just going like these are the ending like disparities, and it's because Black Lives Matter is victimizing people, and not saying it's because of one of the things that Black Lives Matter focuses on, systemic racism, is still prevalent today. Like you're jumping from, hey, Black people are behind in XYZ category, but it's because a movement that started in 2013 said that this needs to stop. That doesn't make any sense by any metric whatsoever. And I did just find that a Harvard Radcliffe Institute study that says that I think 93% of the Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful, and I can link that to you in chat. So
please do.
Yes, I got you right now. But that was that's everything?
Yeah, that was honestly I wasn't gonna bring up anything about the founders of BLM or anything.
Personally, I'm very disappointed with all the news that's coming out with the founders and everything. The organization in itself has a lot of things that they need to answer for, which is why the discussion is more based on the movement. But I did enjoy the conversation. It wasn't overly animus. It wasn't overly like non-civil and everything. So I do appreciate you taking the time to talk.
I appreciate you're definitely super smart. Like you're like things on the top of your head. I think that's something that that's really cool, and I definitely need to know some things on top of my head myself. But I appreciate you not being hostile and just kind of having a conversation about it.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. Thank you for coming on though.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye. You too.
Okay. That was interesting. That wasn't as mean-spirited as I thought it was going to be. There were just simple things that we got to. I think just the crux of it was she would go like, Black fathers are missing, or Black students are behind in literacy, or XYZ. And I'm trying to say, that is true. This is why. This is what Black Lives Matter talks about. And then she would more focus on, but they said something bad about a white cop one time. I don't know if that's, like, you can't, Black Lives Matter is one of the big organizations or big movements. I think at one point, the biggest civil rights movement in the history of the country. So not only is it mainly focusing on police brutality, it's talking about why these things come about. through things like systemic racism. So you can't then take things that are an outcome of systemic racism, like lower literacy rates, absence of the black father, and then say it's because an organization or a movement started in 2013 said that these things exist and we should fight that. That's not the cause of your problem. So she's correct in feeling that and knowing that there's various problems in the black community. She's correct in knowing that something's wrong. But the problem is not Black Lives Matter. And I feel like that's not even necessarily a knock on her in particular, but it's a thing where you buy into this conservative brainwashing in this conservative echo chamber where it's just saying that, hey, this social justice movement is telling you XYZ. Here's why all that stuff's evil. Don't look at the deep systemic problems that are with this country, because you can't criticize America because America's the best. But this movement here, there was a riot, and then they said defund the police, and then look, crime. But you're not realizing how we got here. How we got here was not Black Lives Matter saying we need to stop police brutality. How we got here was the fact that police brutality exists and keeps happening at a higher rate to black people. And why does that happen? Systemic racism. A lot of deep conversational things that a lot of people don't tend to talk about. So, like, you can't say that things that are a product of systemic racism are the fault of the organization that's biggest focus is systemic racism. That's just a culture war thing. That is a product of the conservative brainwashing. Focus on the culture war. Focus on these people saying these things that you disagree with because they look how silly they are. Don't focus on the fact that our conservative ideology cannot compensate, cannot make up for, and cannot fix the fact that there's deep systemic issues in this country. So we'll just keep pinning you against people who say Black Lives Matter because, oh, look how outraged they are, and don't look in the mirror and don't look deeper, because then we have to realize that we are a big reason why these things exist and these things won't get fixed. So, that's kind of like the crux of it. That's kind of like my whole issue with the whole blaming everything on the Black Lives Matter movement when it's quite clearly things that are a product of systemic racism. I'm currently looking down because I'm trying to check how the stream on TikTok is going. But I appreciate all of you guys for stopping in. Yeah, it's on. I do very much appreciate all you guys for stopping in. This has been the first time I've live streamed in a hot minute. Do I like the Jolly Good Ginger? Yes, I do. He's great. Hey, I disagree with every fact you mentioned. Let's move on to another point. I don't know if you're saying that to me or if you're saying that as a sarcastic thing. But thank you to everyone who's subscribing. I appreciate all of you. Unfortunately, I cannot watch in real time. You can watch it back. It'll be posted. For those of you guys in TikTok chat, I haven't been able to look at what's going on. It's 10,000 lives in the TikTok chat. Likes in the TikTok chat. The debate is... Currently, we're live on YouTube. Those of you guys who are on TikTok. So, yes, the link's in my bio. The debate will be on YouTube posted. The full thing. And I'll probably post some clips to here. Remember to always be amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it. Excellent work. Thank you. That's one of those ones where there wasn't really use to getting like very amped up or anything. It was just I enjoyed the discussion. It was just that there's a lot of things that are thrown out as a product of having listening to those constant culture war arguments from the conservative side. That's like you come to a realization that there are various issues, but you end up misplacing your blame and misplacing where you want to aim to fix those things because that's what they want you to do. That's what conservatives want you to do. If you focus on the actual problems, well, then you're saying America's bad or something like that, and then they get their feelings hurt and cry into an American flag. But yeah, I appreciate all you guys for stopping by. Which side am I on? The side that Black Lives Matter movement was not based on a lie. I say post on TikTok so more people will see it instead of watching the whole thing. Yeah, I'll probably post some clips. Can you explain the finances scandal with BLM? I've been looking for info on that. I'm not deep into that right now, but as far as I'm concerned, there were some irregularities with Black Lives Matter financials. There wasn't really a leader there after McCullers had stepped down, and then someone who was up in the organization went to jail for some unrelated reason, I think. But now they haven't been like submitting all their tax info, so now there's looking into whether or not they spent donation money on personal investment, which is a federal crime. And if that did happen, then that's a goddamn shame, and I hope that they get punished for it, because that was like the one movement. And that was a very interesting take that I saw on TikTok about how in America, one of the things, let's get a little discussion about white privilege. One of the things that is a white privilege that a lot of people don't talk about is the ability to be an individual. So in America, if with the exception of recent stereotypes that'll pop up about like white people and things like shootings or something like that, but in general, if you fail as a white person in America, then you failed. If something happens with black people, a prominent black person fails, or a prominent black movement, for this example, has some corruption or anything like it, then it's black people, and you're seeing as a group. So if Black Lives Matter, the movement, which stands for all the things that we were talking about, combating systemic racism, combating police brutality and everything like that, that movement in itself still has well-meaning. But if the organization largely behind that movement has some corrupt financial dealings, then it's like conservatives are going to run to the bank and back with that whole, oh, we told you Black Lives Matter, da-da-da. But in their mind, it's not just, they finally get a thing to be like, oh, Black Lives Matter, da-da-da. But the entire time they've been saying this before evidence even came out. Why? Because they are opposed to the idea of Black Lives Mattering. They've been saying all this, Black Lives Matter is corrupt, Black Lives Matter, before any evidence even came out. Did they predict the future, or are they just have a fundamental problem with Black Lives Matter because they think it's racist or reverse racism or something like that? And now, because the actual organization may have some corrupt financial dealings, they get to cling on to that and run with it. And it's super frustrating because that was the, like, thing. The biggest civil rights movement in the country, still a big civil rights movement, but the organization behind it may or may not have had some corrupt things. So if more information comes out, it's gonna be heartbreaking. It's gonna be very annoying that they couldn't handle their stuff like that. But we should live in a world, and I want to live in a world where I can see that and be like, oh yeah, they messed up. But now I'm gonna have to hear a lot of talking points about how essentially my life is invalidated, or Black lives don't matter, or see, I told you I didn't support Black Lives Matter because da-da-da, as if they can't separate the movement from the organization, all because the people at the top messed up. Because we don't have that luxury of failing as individuals in this country. So, what lie is she saying it was based on? I was struggling to determine that throughout the entire time. I think she was saying that the narrative that black people are getting killed or like disproportionately killed by police was a lie or something like that, which it's not. It's bearing out in factual data. And then she said, well, because proximity crime in the black community happens more often than police officers killing black people, that Black Lives Matter should be focusing on that instead of focusing on the thing that their mission statement is about, which doesn't make sense for that reason, because they're an organization with a mission statement, or a movement with a mission statement. And also because they also address systemic racism, which is one of the main factors for a higher rate of proximity crime in the black community. So you can't say that the reason why like Black Lives Matter isn't focusing on that when they're focusing on the issues that lead to that. They're just not saying black on black crime because that's a racist dog whistle, and it's been crafted by people to make black people look inherently more violent. So I think that's the lie that she's saying it was based off of, but it kind of got all over the place and just kind of kept coming back to the same traditional conservative talking points that don't really make that much sense. Yeah. Said white people don't even acknowledge the association between the Confederacy and the flag, but clump BLM up. That's true. I have a video that I have to make responding to Joel Patrick, who is a black conservative, because he's made 2 videos about me in the last like day on some fan shit, and I haven't even gotten the time to respond. But one of the talking points, the guy who made the guy who's married to that one Kenyan woman, the white guy, and me and him had our little back and forth. Joel Patrick jumped into that on my first video and basically goes like, oh, Because I said that I was basically explaining the party flip by highlighting that the Democrats seceded. Like, people in the South who controlled the political apparatus of the South at the time of secession were Democrats, and they ended up flying the Confederate flag in the battles against the Union. But that same Confederate flag is now appearing at an insurrection that was supportive of Donald Trump, who was a Republican. So how does that happen unless the party ideology is flipped? And he goes, that wasn't the real Confederate flag at the insurrection. That the stars and bars one is the real one. Yeah, the X one that everyone knows, that was the Confederate battle flag and naval ensign. Meaning they still fought battles against the Union under that flag. And it got popularized as a racist dog whistle to let black people know to not come in certain places in the South during the heyday of the KKK when they appropriated it that way. So you saying that because the actual stars and bars flag of the Confederacy wasn't at the insurrection, thus meaning that what, the party ideologies didn't flip? No, they're both actual Confederate flags. One of them is a battle flag and was specifically co-opted by extremely racist people, as if it wasn't already, to make a signal to black people. And they chose that flag to fly at the Capitol when they raided it. It probably would have, in a way, been less racist if they used the other Confederate flag. So he's digging himself a hole before I've even responded. So I got like 2 videos I got to make about him. I got another black conservative that came out. A lot of people are jumping out the window at me this month because I'm not playing with y'all on Black History Month. So like, yeah. Making a video, you missed the debate. It will be a video, don't worry about it. It will be on my YouTube channel. Yeah. All of that. It was very rushed. I just got home at like 2:30 and I was like, I really do gotta go and live stream, and then I gotta go make these other videos. I gotta go clear this snow out the driveway because we did get a little bit of a snowstorm in my area yesterday. I got a lot of things I gotta do. The battle flag is more... Exactly. If anything, the battle flag is more racist because those are the people who are actually on the front line shooting people in order to maintain slavery. And then you guys took that flag and in the heyday of the KKK said, this is going to be our thing now. And then 100 years later, you took that flag after all that and still said, let's fly it in support of our boy Donald Trump. So, if anything, you're just digging yourself a deeper hole. So, I mean, you can get slapped up on that point if you want to. But I don't know why that's a hill he wants to die on. And then in his other video, my camera died. His other video he made about me, it wasn't any much better arguments, honestly. So those will be dropping either both today, or I'll respond to one today, or I might just mess around because I made the video where I was like, people getting called racist. Like, people are more scared of being called racist than actual racism and what it is and the effect that it has on people. And his response was, white people, of course, are going to get irritated if you call all of them racist. When did I say that all white people are racist? He just spawned that point out of thin air and then punched it. That was the definition of a straw man. So if that's the extent to which he's going to argue against me, because if you guys remember, I bodied him on some... He tried to critique some woman who was of Indian descent for actually having a criticism of the American government, and then I bodied him out the water on that argument. So then he proceeded to say, like, actually he didn't proceed to say anything. He didn't even respond to me. So I thought it was just kind of done at that point, but now he's jumped out the window at me for 2 videos that I got to respond to as soon as I'm done here. I think her first point was that it was a lie that white cops are targeting black people, but if the reporting of the killing show white cops, that's just reporting, you gotta think about why that... Yeah, so my thing is, she's saying that the lie was that BLM is pushing this narrative that white cops are targeting black people. That's never been a narrative. Black Lives Matter has never singled out white cops. The people who killed Eric Garner, not all of them were white. Policing in general is the problem. That's why they focus on police brutality. They've never specified the race of the cops. It just so happened that the biggest event that took place for Black Lives Matter that spiked it to something like 70% popularity in the country was a white cop kneeling on a black person and executing them. And when you look at the fact that policing in America started off as literal slave patrols, yeah, there's going to be racial bias there, but when it's so far down the line, so far removed, now anybody can be a cop. When you're just allowing diversity in the police force, but you're not changing the mentality behind policing, yes, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, any cop can be susceptible to being biased against black communities. And that's bared out in the data. No one's saying that white cops in particular. Even though I'm pretty sure you could probably find some data like that, but that's irrelevant because policing is the issue, not white policing. So even if she's saying that that's the lie, nobody said that. So you're making up shit. That's the problem. Like, you can't say that BLM is based off a lie and then provide as your number one thing a point that nobody's even making. Like, that just doesn't make sense. But with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the live stream. I have to do 1,000,000,001 things now. So I'm going to log off, and I'm going to try to do this in the best way possible because I have I'm still looking at 1,000,000,001 things. But thank you guys all for stopping in. It was 1:18, really? Didn't feel like I was going for that long. But I feel like this is a good place to end it. Be looking forward to more content on YouTube, more live streams. I don't know when the next debate's gonna happen. Maybe if Joel Patrick wants to do it, or if the other person who made a video on me wants to do it. I'm just gonna start asking people to debate me now, because sometimes going back and forth with 3-minute response videos just doesn't get through to people, no matter what I say. And I saw that in the last beef that I had with that African hippie and her husband. Like, yeah, yeah. But thank you guys all for stopping in. Thank you guys all for watching, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So have an awesome day, night, wherever you are, and peace. See you guys later.